And welcome to the Deadlift Show. This is Ryan here, going over some deadlift techniques and wanted to share all the great things I've been learning throughout this process as I reach closer and closer to 600 pounds through the end of the year of 2014. I wanted to talk about deadlifting too fast and the hips shooting up too quickly. A lot of the time, if you share your video with other people as far as your form and technique when it comes to the deadlift, you will often hear that your hips are shooting up too quickly. And before, I did not quite understand this concept, because when I first started deadlifting, a lot of how I used to deadlift was sort of more like a stiff-legged deadlift. I actually thought that's kind of how deadlift was supposed to be. And then I learned how to use more of my quads. It was crazy when I started to incorporate my quadriceps into the movement. And then what ended up happening was I started getting this kind of pitch effect. Right after I lifted the bar off the ground, I would pitch forward because my hips were too low. So it is possible to have your hips too low. But the one thing I do want to talk about when it comes to the deadlift is really what happens when you deadlift too quickly. When you deadlift too quickly, you can get out of position very quickly, and this will happen at heavier weights. When you are lifting at 70, maybe even 80% and you're fresh and you're really strong, what will end up happening is you can overshadow a lot of imperfections in technique by simply being strong and fresh. And then when you start to get in the 95 percentiles or 90% of your one repetition max, or you start to push the envelope by getting lots of volume, you'll start to get this two-part movement where you start to pitch forward in the deadlift. This simply happens because you're deadlifting too quickly. Now, although you're strong and maybe you're wearing a belt, maybe you're not, what you figure out and find out fast is that you start to run out of pulling room. And when your hips rise too much, you essentially run out of the ability to pull the bar in. Now, some people's hip shooting up isn't so obvious. So with a really ugly deadlift, when the hips shoot up too quickly, it turns into a really stiff-legged deadlift or a really ugly back extension. I'm talking about really more of the sense that when people's hips shoot up just a little bit too high too soon. And this happens as the bar begins to pass the knees. Because recently I've been watching a lot of different videos, other people deadlifting, particularly women, have perfect deadlifts, or some of the ones that I've seen. And this kind of makes sense when you are having a 115-pound female that's trying to pull 260 pounds. When guys deadlift, obviously it's a lot different because muscle mass and different characteristics, more testosterone in the body, has an effect on strength. Each individual has different strengths and different weaknesses, and a lot of the time when someone's doing max reps, whether it be a deadlift or any movement for that matter, and it's somewhere around 85% or more, and they're near their last and final repetition, on that final rep, or maybe second to the last rep of failing, what happens is a bar can only move one way, which means the body can only move one way. It has to move the way where your body is the strongest. Because at the beginning, let's say 85% or 90% of your one rep max, and you're trying to rep it out, right? You can only rep out so many bad reps because it's too heavy. So eventually, as you begin to fatigue doing maybe 3, 5, 6, or maybe 7 reps, depending on your specific skill set and strength set, you'll find that the bar can move perfectly at that last rep if you're going to finish it. And the reason why is because that is the path of least resistance for the weight to move. When it comes to powerlifting, building strength, getting better, making improvements, and making gains, you soon begin to realize that there is so much more to learn. And then as you get stronger and you watch these amazing people, amazing powerlifters that are super strong, like Brett Gibbs and Johnny Candido and Dan Green and Brandon Lilly and Eric Spoto and all these guys that are lifting tons of weight, you begin to realize they know something. They're going through what you are experiencing when you get to these sticking points, when you get stuck. And most of the population just don't even know what the hell is going on, and they don't even care when they get to that point because they're not in powerlifting. They're not caring how much they lift. They do care, but they don't care as much as you do. Because if you're watching this far into the video, it's because you're trying to get to a point where you've never been. And it could be simply just because it's just something that you enjoy. And that's sort of kind of what I've been doing with the deadlift. I want to get to a point where I've never been. And as I get stronger and I get better, this 700-pound deadlift is starting to become more realistic in this lifetime. And after watching Jesse Norris deadlift 800 pounds, I'm just thinking, shit, I should be able to deadlift 700 pounds conventional before switching to sumo. So anyways, my mission here is really to just try my best to articulate what I learn and share you the ideas and essentially what all these guys are experiencing. I want to share it with you in a way that is as I go, because as I watch more and more people deadlift, what I'm beginning to realize is that what you know at the highest level, you forget what it means to be crappy. You forget what it means to be that beginner, maybe that beginning intermediate, or that intermediate lifter where you're deadlifting 500 pounds or in the high 400s, or you're benching barely over 300 pounds and you're squatting barely 400 pounds for reps. And when you're at that point, I want to be, and because I'm crossing this point as I get stronger, I want to be able to share these ideas and kind of say, oh, look, this is what I did, this is what I learned, this is kind of what got me through this point. And in the deadlift, what I'm learning is that the slow pull is really the way to go. And I got a book I'm writing, a little ebook I want to put together. And if you're interested in that, sign up for my newsletter or my email list, because I'm really working hard to put something good together for it, because I want it to be one of the things that I'm known for, because I want it to be well done. So it's going to take me maybe a few months to do that, but in case you're interested, click the link in the description. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.